My name is Jess and this is Reason. Today I'm joined by Nick Buckley, who is a charity worker and a free speech champion. Nick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, not a problem. As you said, my name's Nick. I I became slightly infamous a couple of years ago when I was sacked from the charity I founded for criticising Black Lives Matter. I mounted a fight back and beat everybody in a 5 week period. And then since then, I've been an active online champion for free speech, trying to get people to understand what it's about, why we need it, and what will happen if we lose it.
Could you go into a bit more detail about the backlash you received for criticising Black Lives Matter?
Yep, so it was 2 years ago. Black Lives Matter, there was a peaceful riot in London, so the BBC said. So I'd not really heard of Black Lives Matter that much before. So I decided to Google them to find out what they were about. So I found their website and I read it, and I was quite surprised really about what they were saying: defund the police, disrupt a nuclear family, overthrow capitalism. And I decided that this wasn't what I wanted, and this would not be beneficial to the UK. And I spoke to my family and friends, and no one knew any of this. They just thought it was about anti-racism. So I wrote a 700-word blog on my personal blog, put it out there for people to read on LinkedIn, and somebody saw it, read it, didn't like it, and then copied the link and put it on Twitter, and then it all went mental. People were calling for me to be sacked. Someone set a petition up to have me fired. A volunteer for the charity resigned and called me a Nazi. The board panicked. I knew the board, I knew one of them for 15 years, one for 9 and one for 7. So they knew me very well. They panicked and decided that they needed to do something. So they sacked me over email. Just a simple one sentence email. And that was the end of that there and then. But then I decided I wasn't having it. I decided this isn't fair. You can't do that in this country. So I mounted a fight back. The Mail on Sunday did a big piece on me that gained lots of attention worldwide. The Free Speech Union, who I advise everybody to join because you never know when you're going to need them. They were fantastic. They got me a solicitor. And then we looked at the case, and within half an hour, the solicitor said to me, "This is an open and shut case. This is breach of contract. It's simple." We wrote to the board, and we told them I was going to sue them individually if they didn't resign and appoint a new board. So within 18 hours of getting that letter from the solicitors, all of them resigned. We appointed a new board, and they reappointed me as chief exec.
Would you say that your experience fighting back against cancel culture is normal, or would you think that having a successful story is rare?
It's still a rare case, but it's getting more common. Free Speech Union do an amazing work, and not everybody who uses the Free Speech Union actually wants publicity, because most people, are quite introverted and don't want to be in the public eye. I decided I needed to be in the public eye because I wanted as much attention as possible. We're beginning to win more and more of these fights, but we've got a long way to go. And lots of these fights can be won. But the first thing you've got to do to win this fight is you've got to say, no, I'm going to stand up against this. You're never going to win if you don't fight back. And that's been the problem we've had for decades now. People weren't fighting back. They were accepting the injustice, thinking, I don't want to cause a fuss. I don't want things to get worse. But if you've been fired and your life's in tatters, what else can go wrong? You have to fight back.
So, what is cancel culture?
I mean, cancel culture is all over the place. All depends what sphere of life you're actually in. So if you're at university, you have to go along with the mantra of this far left ideology, otherwise you'll be cancelled from university. I was on a panel with a young lady who was she's a Scottish, I forgot her name now, a Scottish lady, who, because in one of her courses, she said she didn't believe that trans women are women. That was the end of her course. She's now, with the help of the Free Speech Union, she's now suing her university. We had the example of a train driver who made a bit of a joke saying on his own Facebook page, he's glad the lockdown's ending, because he can't wait for the pubs to open because he doesn't want to live in an Islamic state with no alcohol. He was making a joke. You can argue it wasn't a very funny joke, but it was a joke. He got sacked from the train company, but he either got his job back or he got paid out because of the Free Speech Union. Then we're looking at different types of cancel culture. The worst type of cancel culture is self-censorship. That's when you know you want to say something, but you're too scared to do it. That's you cancelling your own opinions. And that's what happens down this road, is that we become too fearful and we start cancelling our own thoughts because we don't want the problem, and it only leads to tyranny.
How do we defend freedom of speech?
We all need to defend free speech, because once it goes, it's very hard to get back. And we've had a creep over this now for a couple of decades now. You know, we've got the misuse of the Communications Act, and we've got these other things that are hampering our free speech. We were more free 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago than we are today. Can you believe that? We were more free decades ago. We've almost got blasphemy laws now through the back door in this country. You know, nobody wants to talk about Islam. Nobody wants to criticize Islam because it can be a death sentence. That's a blasphemy law. Nobody wants to talk about the LGBTQ plus alphabet people because you'll be accused of being homophobic. And all these are an attack on our free speech. Now, I'm not a free speech absolutist, because what we don't want is people using the ability of free speech to create problems, such as if I say to you, I'd like you to get a knife and kill that guy. Well, that's free speech if I want to say it, but it's also called incitement to violence. So there has to be limits on free speech, and that's where the problem lies. Who defines what those limits are? And the only way we've done it up to now, which isn't perfect, but it's the only way that works up to now, is we do it through the law. And we have our elected politicians create laws that can define when we go too far with free speech. So we can say whatever we want up to that point. And once you get to that point, you then break the law. And if the public don't like those laws, then we elect new politicians to change those laws, and then we have what we want. What we can't have is what we've got now, which is mob rule, which is if the mob says that's wrong, then it's wrong. And they come knocking on your door with pitchforks and torches, and they will tie you to a stake and they'll burn you as a heretic. That's not how we want in this country. And what we also don't want is bureaucrats regulating free speech, because who elects those bureaucrats? Nobody. What side are they on? We have no idea. That's why it has to be legally based in written law that we all can understand. And sometimes those laws will be wrong, because we have some of those laws now and they're wrong. But at least they can be changed by the public if enough of the public want them changed. And that's the only sort of balance we can have.
Great, thank you so much, Nick. Would you be able to tell us what you're doing currently? Because I know you're staying strong in the fight to defend free speech. Could you let us know about your activism and what's going on in places like Manchester, for example?
Yes, so I'm very vocal on most social media. So if people want to follow me at Nick Buckley, MBE, all one word. I'm being more active now on YouTube. I'm trying to get videos out there that educate people, but also give them the courage so they can fight back. Because this isn't going to be won by people like just me and you fighting on our own. This has to be a mass movement. This has to be people who are working all over the country saying, no, I'm not having this, and I'm going to do my little bit. We don't need people taking chances and losing their jobs over this, but we need people to fight sneakily. And I tend to use a phrase now called be a ninja, not a whinger. So stop moaning about the state of the country and start doing your little bit to improve your little bit of the country. And then you've done your bit then. It's down to everybody else to do their bit. So I'm having all those discussions online, in person, at conferences. I've spoken at 2 universities, debates, and my side won the debate on free speech, which was very pleasing. So, you know, some young people do get it. I've been writing some books and I write articles explaining this in more detail. So if people want to read some free Substack articles, go to my Substack. Just Google Substack Nick Buckley, you'll find it. I write stuff on the trans ideology, immigration, anything that's a social issue that I've got some experience in, I will write something on it. I'm just trying to keep this fight going, and I'm trying to educate and upskill everyday people so they can join this fight, so they can be a little bit more formidable, because everybody needs to be involved.